Hi everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Building a Better Business in 10 Steps. Can I just check that you can all hear me okay? There's a little chat box at the bottom of your screen. If you could just type in there that you can hear me okay. Great, thank you. So again, welcome to today's webinar, Building a Better Business in 10 Steps. My name is Ikra Aslam and I am one of the client managers here at Rolls & Associates, and I'll be your moderator today. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the webinar environment, we've got some Zoom settings. So let's take a closer look at the webinar controls. You can select audio settings here to select and test your speakers. You can submit any questions you've got throughout the webinar using the Q&A button. All you have to do is type in your question into the box and we'll answer as many questions as we can at the end of the webinar. You can click Leave Meeting if you need to leave at any time. When and if you do leave the webinar, there will be a questionnaire that will pop up, and we will really appreciate it if you could spend a couple of minutes just giving us some feedback. Now, I'd like to introduce today's presenter, Ian McLeish, who is one of the directors at Rolls & Associates. Welcome, Ian.
Thanks, Ikra. I always like to start these sessions with a thought for the day, or a thought for the session. And today's one is live as if you were to die tomorrow, learn as if you were to live forever. What does that mean? To me, it means live in the moment. Don't spend your time worrying about the future. As I think it was Mark Twain said, I've endured many calamities, some of which actually happened. The second sentence says to me that to continue to grow as a person, you need to keep learning. And personally, for me, I can't imagine getting to a point where I say to myself, okay, you've learned enough, you can stop now. Just something to think about. Now, this is one of a series of regular webinars we're providing for clients and friends who are wanting to improve their businesses and get to the position where the business is providing all they need or all they want. We've got a lot to pack into this webinar, so I'll just get started. Now, I'm passionate about small business owners getting more from their business, and I'm also passionate about personal learning and development. In my experience of working with owners of small businesses, growing a better business involves personal growth too, and I believe successfully owning and running a small business inevitably involves personal development of the owner. So today I'll share some practical things you can do to improve your business and hopefully your life. But there's no substitute for ongoing work, working on your business, not just in it. So before we go any further, I'd like you to spend a few moments to consider what a better business would actually mean to you. Would it be more profit, or is there more to it than that? What do you really want, and how will you balance work in the rest of your life? What does your business need to deliver to you? Perhaps you're looking for a less stressful environment. Or what about actually enjoying going to work? Overall, a better business is one that delivers on the three freedoms: time freedom, mind freedom, and financial freedom. And today I'm going to take you through the 10 steps you can take to achieve these three freedoms. Unfortunately, as accountants, we see far too many clients not achieving these. They will be working long hours, not spending as much time as they'd like with their children or families, and getting burned out. And that's one of the reasons we're running this webinar today. Think about your business. Who teaches you how to run a better business? Your solicitor, your bank manager? Who? Did you learn it at school? Who do you think is the best person to teach you how to run a better business? It could be your accountant, if you have the right one. But how often do you set time with your accountant to discuss forward-facing issues and learn how to run a better business? Everyone in business needs independent support. I'm sure you're all absolute experts at the technical aspects of your business, whatever that might be, but today is in part about reflecting on what you're not so good at. Perhaps this is understanding your numbers or creating and implementing a simple business plan. Perhaps you need to lead the business and team a bit better. These are all things that we can help you with, things that you can improve. And overall, we want your business to serve you and not the other way around. So here's what we're going to cover today, this agenda. I want you to go away from this webinar with 3 things you can apply straight away to your business. So it's important you write your ideas down as they come to you. If not, you probably won't remember them. So today I'm going to share with you the 10 steps themselves, the what and the why, implementation best practice, the next steps and some options for support, then accountability time for you to decide what you're going to do as a result of coming along to this session. When you have questions, as Ikra said, put them in the Q&A box and we'll cover as many as we can at the end. So step 1, get clear on exactly what you want. This is about setting a clear goal for your business. As someone once said, if you don't know where you're going, you'll never know if you've got there. I want to briefly cover an in-depth method of setting goals, which makes it much more likely that you'll reach them. We're talking primarily about business here, but in fact, these principles apply equally to all areas of your life. It's a 6-step process, which we've used with clients to produce compelling and motivating goals. So the first step is that the goal should be expressed positively. Now, the reason for this is that your unconscious mind doesn't process negatives. If you're not sure about this, try not to think about a purple elephant. You have to think about a purple elephant first and then try not to. So it's not possible. On top of this, the unconscious mind will work to help you get what you think about. So if you express your goal as, I want not to be stressed, your unconscious mind hears stressed and looks for ways for you to be stressed. However, if you describe your goal as, I want to be more relaxed and at ease in the world, your unconscious mind will help you find ways to be more relaxed and at ease in the world. So the first very important point is to express your goal as a positive thing that you want, rather than what you don't want. And if you find this difficult, you can always ask yourself, once you've set your negative goal, say, well, what would I like instead? The second step, excuse me, is to work out what resources you'll need to achieve your goal. This could be a whole range of things. It could be finance, people, learning new skills, new beliefs or attitudes, and we'll come back to this later. The third step is to make sure that your goal can be started and maintained by you. A goal, for instance, to be, say, the best electrical firm in the country is not fully under your control because you can't control what the other firms do. But you can have a goal to be the best you can be. Failure to take this into account can lead to excuses such as, well, I couldn't do that because they did this instead, so you really have to keep it under your own control as far as possible. The fourth step is to be clear on what evidence will tell you when you've achieved your goal, what we see, what we hear, what we feel. And this means making the goal very specific. So if you say, I want to have more money, that's not very specific, but if I want to see £100,000 in my bank account, that's pretty specific. You'll know whether you can see there's £100,000 in your bank account. And there could be all sorts of evidence which could tell you if you've achieved your goal. If you can't think what evidence there would be for your goal, it's probably too vague and you need to rethink it. The fifth step is to consider the knock-on effects of achieving your goal. If it involves long hours of work, it might mean seeing less of your family, and that could have other implications. So by considering these unintended effects, you can test if they are worth enduring in order to achieve your goal. Or it might lead to changes in your goal to avoid these effects. You might modify your goal to something that doesn't involve that. So the sixth and final step is to put a time frame on reaching your goal. At this stage, for a business, it's often an idea to reach 3, 5, or even 10 years ahead with a really big business goal. Then break it down into shorter periods. And I'll talk about this later as well. This has been a very short introduction to step 1, to part of the process we use at Roslin Associates to help our clients set motivating and compelling goals. We often work together for a couple of hours with clients to help them get clarity on the goals they want to achieve, because only when you know where you're going do you know what you need to do to get there. Step 2 is about being open to change and new learning. If you want to build a better business, you'll need to make some changes. It seems obvious. What you're doing now isn't getting you what you want, so you need to change something in order to do that. And the overall thing you need to change is that you'll need to start working more on the business rather than working just in the business. But we all know that change can be difficult. We all develop habits over time which be difficult to change. And that's why we need a compelling and motivating goal as a starting point. So what changes do we need to make specifically? It can be helpful to break the changes down into categories to help identify what changes are needed in each category. So the first one is your environment. This is the world you live in, the external world. That will include your office, your warehouse, your home, as well as the tools and vehicles and equipment, etc. that you use. A common change is to find somewhere to work on the business. If you haven't got an office, that could be the first change you need to make, maybe renting an office for the first time. You might need a computer or a printer. There could be all sorts of things at this level that you need in order to be able to make the change to change your business. The second level for change is your behavior. What will you need to do differently? Maybe stop working on the tools as much if you're an electrician or a plumber or whatever, and set aside some time for working on the business. The third aspect to look at is knowledge and skills. Now, while the skills and knowledge you already have are essential for delivering the product or service of your business, they might not be enough for actually running your business. You might need to learn about leadership and management, how to motivate your team, how business works generally. One area where all successful businesses learn is their business's numbers. If you can't understand your profit and loss account, cash flow, and balance sheet, you won't know what the numbers are telling you, so you won't be able to make wise decisions based on the numbers. You don't need to be an accountant, that's our job, but you need to learn enough to be able to understand. A useful resource could be a recording of our webinar, which was Know Your Numbers, which we ran last month. And you can actually find that on our website. Fourth level is attitude. I'm not going to say too much about this here, as the changes you need to make will depend on where you are just now. Overall, attitudes such as taking individual responsibility for your actions, being flexible, teamwork, being positive, are all helpful towards being a successful business owner. And finally, beliefs. This is a difficult area to work on by yourself. It's very difficult unless you're very self-aware to know exactly what you believe, and the help of a coach, for instance, can help you uncover your current beliefs, which might be holding you back. The most common limiting beliefs I come across are, first of all, my goal is not possible, i.e. nobody can do it. And the second one is, well, even if it is possible, I can't achieve it. Personally, I can't do it. And the third one is, even if it is possible and I could do it, at some level, I don't believe I deserve it. This can sometimes take the form of, I'm not the sort of person that can do that sort of thing. So, step 3. The first 2 steps were about getting clear on exactly what you want, and then being open to change and new learning. Step 3 is about defining where you are now, warts and all, which is so often overlooked. If you're using Google Maps to get directions, what does it ask you? It asks you where your starting point is. It needs to know where you are now, so it can tell you how to get where you want to go. Well, this may seem obvious. Too many business owners try to make a plan without fully understanding where they're starting from. And when I say warts and all, I mean you need to have a very honest and accurate understanding about the following 5 points. First one applies obviously when there's more than one owner-manager. How aligned are the owners and leaders? If they were asked independently where the business is headed, would they say the very same thing? Now, I've worked with many different owner-managed businesses where there's more than one owner-manager, and very often when you ask them separately where they think the business will be in 3 years or 5 years, they have completely different ideas. So it's really essential to work with that, to find out a common ground that they can agree on, so that they're both pulling towards the same thing, taking action that will lead to the same place. Next thing is basically to measure and record what's actually happening now in terms of it could be the sales numbers and the returns you're achieving as your business. So it's not just about the sales numbers. For example, how many leads are you generating per month? How many proposals are being written and accepted? What's your average sales value? How many networking events you're attending or running per month? These are all examples of the sort of thing you need to know now so that you can then measure any improvement or see the effect of the improvements. How engaged is your team? Well, obviously this only really applies if you've got a team, obviously, but even then you want to look forward to a day when you will have. Without the team on board, you'll not achieve what you're trying to achieve. A study on employee engagement showed that only 30% of employees in companies were engaged, 52% were disengaged, and 18% were actively disengaged. Studies also prove that businesses with engaged team members significantly outperform those without. So the appropriateness of the measurement and reporting systems you have in place to track your results is so important. It's all very well to set targets, but if you can't measure them, basically you're flying blind. Finally, the 5 biggest vulnerabilities right now. Where are things most likely to break in the near future? For example, it could be poor systems, poor technology, high team member turnover, cash flow strains, or a weak balance sheet. So just as Google Maps asks you for your starting point, before you make a plan to head somewhere new, you must understand where you are right now. You really can't afford to miss this. Step 3, I've put in step 3A. This is a tool we use with clients to help them get clarity on where to concentrate first when deciding where they are now. We ask them to consider each of the 10 sections you see here and say what mark out of 10 they would give as to their satisfaction with that element at the moment. So unlike the 5 aspects in the last slide, this is a subjective measure of satisfaction. It's basically saying how happy is the business owner with these 10 aspects of their business. And the sections with the lowest numbers are the areas which probably the most urgently need attention. And these are the ones where the client feels least happy. I will actually be able to send out a copy of this after the webinar. So to recap, the first 3 steps. Step 1, getting clear on exactly what you want. Step 2 is about being open to change. And step 3 is knowing warts and all where you are right now. You're now ready for the next step of making a clear plan. So remember that the business is there to serve you, not the other way around. You shouldn't be a slave to your business. So if you go back to step 1, where you recorded who you want to be, where you are, what you want to get from your business, how would you want to work and the hours you're prepared to put in? Build your plan around what you want personally from the business. This slide is an example of what we call bottom-up budgeting method, and we use this with clients. Now I've simplified it a bit to make a point. Now let's have a look at this. So what we're saying is, as part of your goal is to get £100,000 from your business. So the business can provide you with £100,000 to help with your lifestyle, etc. Now I'll put the tax in because obviously we tend to forget about tax, but what that means is we need to make a net profit before tax of £125,000 in order to provide £100,000 a year. Now, if we know our overheads, that's our utilities or rent, salaries, etc. If they are 200,000, then adding the profit plus the overheads, you need a gross profit of 325,000. Now, I'm not going to go through explaining all these terms. If you were at our last webinar, hopefully you know them. If you don't know them, go and have a look at it, because then that'll explain what this means if you're not sure. Now, so we need a gross profit of 325. If we know that our gross profit percentage is 50%, that tells us that we need sales of £650,000 in order to make £100,000 to take home. Now, this is basically arithmetic. As long as the tax rate stays the same, as long as the overheads don't change, as long as the gross profit percentage stays the same, if you hit £650,000 in this example, you will have £100,000 tax-free after tax to take home. And what this is useful, because then you can say, let's break that 650,000 sales into maybe weeks or months. So if it was, let's say you were working 46 weeks per year, that means you would need to get just over £14,000 a week of sales, something you can then build into your plan and your measures and your KPIs, etc. And as an aside, one of the things you can notice, if you were to able to increase your gross profit percentage to 52%, you only need about 13,500 a week. So this budget is the starting point, essentially, for your making your plan. So what you want to do is follow these rules for creating a solid plan. First, keep it on one page. You can put it on two if you must, and you can always print it out in double-sided, but don't make a great big long document which you'll never read. You might read once, but you'll never go back to. Have no more than 4 main goals for the year. If you have too many, you'll probably struggle to achieve them. Then you need to cascade your annual goals into 90-day goals and actions. Identify the actions you need to complete in order to achieve those goals. And then identify no more than 5 KPIs, that's key performance indicators. What are the things that are most important to keep control over or to influence and then that you can measure in order to achieve your success? Share your plan with your team. Their personal career goals should be linked with your plan. Help them define their own actions and KPIs, and they should be recorded in their job description. Keep the plan really visible to you, to your colleagues, your team, and track your progress against your plan and celebrate success along the way. Whether it's going out for a meal, whether it's going bowling or whatever, do something to celebrate achieving your goals. And you should review your plan at least quarterly. Have someone independent hold you accountable. So remember, a dream written down becomes a goal broken down into steps becomes a plan, and a plan backed by action makes it reality. Your business plan is your how-to guide to achieve what you want in your life and your business. It's the most fundamental document in your entire business. So how good is yours? Step 5 is getting your organisational structure right. Now, this might not seem to apply to some very small businesses, but if you want to grow your business, it's essential to start thinking in terms of an organisational structure from day one. If you've read Michael Gerber's book, The E-Myth Revisited, and if you haven't, you should, but if you have read it, this is very familiar, should be familiar territory to you. In other words, you define the different boxes, and then you, as an individual who are probably in all the boxes at the beginning, work to get out the boxes. So the organizational structure shows the departments in your business, who's responsible for what, whether they're employees or external contractors, and how the hierarchy works. This is called the 10 hats organizational structure. The 10 hats or departments are shareholders, directors, and you see it says above the line, that's the strategic level. And then the operational line, below the line is the operational level, which is leadership, making things happen. Then we've got product development, that's R&D effectively. Operations, which is the engine room that generates the cash. Sales, which brings in business, and marketing, which communicates and tells the world what you do. And finance, admin, and human resources. So the important points here are there can only be one leader, and there can only be one person responsible for each department. And an easy way to remember this is only one person can wear each hat, but one person can wear several hats. Each department needs clear responsibilities, tasks, and KPIs. And you need to review the structure regularly, making sure it's still in alignment with your goals and plans. Step 6 involves working on your leadership skills and building a stronger workplace culture. So what is a toxic workplace and why does it matter? Well, a toxic workplace generally has several aspects to it, and so some or at least some of the following ones. The first one is a lack of trust between the owners and the team. It's a sense of us and them. You've seen it so often where the business owner doesn't trust the workforce. And that is a pretty toxic place to work, especially if you're in the workforce. No core values. Why is this important? Because if people don't know what is important to the business, they find it really hard to make decisions. They can't hold each other to account for their actions. Essentially, if nothing's of value, then anything goes. Then we have after meetings. We all know what this is. It's basically you have a meeting, nobody talks, maybe apart from a couple of people, and then as soon as the meeting's finished, everybody's talking. You can see this quite often in businesses. And then this is both a symptom and a cause of a toxic environment. Highly stressful interactions are the norm. In other words, you can see it in people's faces often, that they're almost scared. There's fear around, everybody's fear they're going to get pulled in or being told off or whatever. So there's a lack of openness. And what's the effect this has on the business? Well, people won't say anything. And if people don't say anything, then you're losing all the resource of that person. Someone has great ideas, but is too scared to say them, then you're losing so much from the business. Team members and owners mistreating each other. This is essentially people looking after their own position first. I've seen it in businesses where one person will try to sabotage another person's work in order to put themselves first. And no team buy-in to the business's core purpose or goals, or even worse, a complete absence of purpose and goals. This all matters, as the more toxic a workplace is, the less efficient, profitable and rewarding the business will be, with high team turnover, demoralised members and high recruitment costs. So what can you do to resolve this? So take an honest look at your business through these above points that we just discussed, then follow these steps. Use a collaborative approach to set no more than 5 core values, each with a definition. Now, this tells your workforce what's important to them, to you, to the business, and what should be important to them whilst they're at work at least. It helps people make decisions. It helps people to be guided in making the decision making. Purpose. You need to define your core purpose. Why does your business exist for your clients? Check out Simon Sinek's video, Start With Why, on YouTube. Really worth it. It's really good for this and it's very short. Make your purpose and core values highly visible. Ensure each team member, especially you, has memorized them and hold each other to account for living them. Break down your plan into goals and actions for each team member. If you explain one-to-one to each team member how they personally fit into the business's core purpose and values and what is expected of them in this context, the sum of the individual team goals will deliver your overall plan. Celebrate success, as I mentioned earlier. Give recognition to team members for great performance and also give recognition to the team if they've worked together to achieve something. Meet with your team regularly. This ensures you support them effectively and addresses any minor issues before resentment builds. What we do is we have, at the moment, obviously under the current situation, we have Zoom meetings every morning, pretty much every morning, for 5 minutes, basically going around each member of the team saying, how are you? What are you working on? Do you need anything from anybody? It takes 5 minutes, but it keeps, any individual meeting may not seem that important, but the process of doing it every day means that we keep connected and we meet regularly. And we also have weekly team meetings, which are a set agenda, which just can discuss our progress towards our goals and also any issues that are arising, whether it's work or anything in general. Again, I mentioned earlier it's after meetings. You have to discourage that, and the way to discourage it is to create an atmosphere within meetings or within the business generally that people will be respected and listened to when they talk and not shouted down or rubbished. Stop playing favourites. In other words, people will see it and they'll grow resentful if you treat people differently, unfairly. Avoid being held ransom by toxic employees. This is sometimes a difficult one for people. We all want to help, and then we should help. If someone is actively bringing down the business, it could be deliberately or just by the very way they are. I think you need to help them change, but only to a certain extent. Ultimately, it's their responsibility, and they may have to leave. And in actual fact, your good team members will appreciate this and be thankful. So, have more fun at work. Says what basically. That's what it's all about. You've got to be able to have a laugh and enjoy yourself. Otherwise, you spend a lot of time there, so as do the rest of your team. Make sure that at least some of the time you're having a bit of fun. Okay, step 7, get someone independent to hold you to account. So it's all about accountability. As it says there, a coach is someone who tells you what you don't want to hear, has you see what you don't want to see, so you can be who you have always known you can be. We all try to avoid things, especially if they're going to be hard or difficult or unfamiliar. That's why often business plans get written and nothing actually happens with them, because it's hard work. It's maybe difficult because you don't know how to do it. So you need someone to hold you accountable. So who is the best person to hold you to account? Could it be a spouse or a partner? Life partner rather than a business partner, even a business partner? Maybe not always a good idea. I'll leave you to imagine what could go wrong there. It needs to be someone who will be firm and hold you to account, and who will empathize and understand the challenges you're facing. So think about who you could get as an accountability coach, someone with the knowledge and skills needed, as well as the backbone to tell you what you don't want to hear, and the heart to understand what you need to hear as well. Step 8 is build strong networks. Now, probably most businesses that we deal with generate a lot of their business from referrals. And the great thing about referrals is that they don't cost you anything. The best place to gain new referrals is by networking with your existing clients and people you do business with. So how can you maximize referrals from your networks? Here are 5 ideas to consider. This is about building a network of referrals from your customers. So let's say you own a restaurant, maybe not a good example at the moment, but your average customer spends £50 per visit and visits 5 times per year. The restaurant's gross profit margin is 66%, and the customers generally keep returning for around 5 years. So we can work out how much profit the restaurant will generate from that one customer. It's what we call the lifetime value. And that would be £825, which is 50 times 5 times 66% times 5. With this value in mind, what could you give your customers to demonstrate how much you appreciate their repeat business? Perhaps it's as simple as just a complimentary drink. And they'll talk to people about this. And that way you can build a network of referrals. Second step within step 8 is to identify the businesses you work with that complement your services. For example, a surveyor might work with lawyers, valuers, bankers, accountants, tradespeople. You could create an informal group of these people who work well together, commit to a regular get-together, and you can focus on how you can work more effectively together. This could be lead to forming a mastermind group, which can be very, very useful to explore ideas about business and look and share experiences. This one will be familiar to anybody within BNI who knows the expression giver's gain. If you focus on giving work to the people in your network, that creates a feeling in them that they want to give you something back to you, and it's called the law of reciprocity. You do something nice for someone, they'll often reciprocate with a gesture far more generous, and hopefully in this case it'll be more referrals. Find out where the people you want to do business with are. There may be existing networks where you can join that refer work to you when you join them, for example, BNI, Rotary, Chamber of Commerce, etc. Fifth one, sponsor and get involved with voluntary or non-profit organisations. You can choose something that you or your team are interested in. This could be a sports club or perhaps a charity. We've been involved now and again with different charities. We've done things like running a marathon and Rough Runner to raise funds for different charities. So which of these 5 ideas can you implement today? Step 9 is about monitoring your progress. Now, if you're driving, it's a very common analogy, but it continues to make sense. If you're driving to get somewhere, you need to know where you're going. You've got a dashboard. You need to know how fast you're driving so that you don't get done for speeding. You need to know how much fuel you've got. You need to know the engine temperature, maybe even the rev counter if you're an enthusiastic driver. It's the same in your business. What are the 3 to 5 most important things, KPIs or key performance indicators, for you to keep an eye on? And how do you decide which are the most important? And how do you calculate them? You can use this 4-step process to create your own dashboard. First, you need to understand which KPIs have the greatest influence on your ability to achieve your goal. So for a professional firm, this might be the average hourly rate invoiced. For a contracting firm, it might be your gross margin for every job. If you remember when back to the slide where we worked out the numbers, the gross profit was very important. So if that's the case, then you really do need to measure that on a regular basis. That's a very important KPI. For a retailer, it could be the average transaction value for the day or the week. Remember when we were discussing where you are now, warts and all, you worked out the current level of activity that's generating the sales numbers and returns you're currently achieving. So you need to know which of your KPIs, when increased or decreased, will have the biggest impact on your future results. And you need to choose no more than, say, 5 KPIs to measure. Too many and it just gets confusing. Next, you need to work out how you'll measure the 5 KPIs. It really helps if you can get it automated wherever possible. If you want to measure average income per client per annum, what you need to do is measure your revenue on a rolling 12-month basis and divide this by the number of clients you have. Here, you need to set up a simple 1-page report that you can produce on a weekly or monthly basis to track your progress against these 5 KPIs. Make sure you allocate time to go through this report every time it's produced and share the results with your team. And remember to repeat these steps with your individual team members. KPIs for the team members will be different to the KPIs for the overall business, but establishing KPIs for each team member lets them understand the definition of a good day's work for them. Monitoring and reporting the KPIs regularly will help your team know if they're on track. Step 10, do the things that make you happy. This whole thing can seem like hard work, and it often is. It's easy to lose sight of why you're building a business. As I said earlier, it should be there for you, not the other way around. And that's still true when you're working on the business rather than just in it, perhaps even more so. For me, step 10 has at least 2 parts. The first is to make sure that you take care of yourself. Sharpen the saw, as Stephen Covey put it in the 7 Habits. Make sure you get enough rest and sleep, eat healthily, get exercise, take time off, book that holiday. Don't work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year. You can't maintain it. The second part for me is to remember that there is only now. Do you want to spend decades building a business, putting off things that make you happy, believing that you will be happy when it's done, only to realize that you've missed being happy all these years? Your family won't wait until you've built your business before they grow up, and you won't get any younger as the years pass. Make sure you experience all the things that make you happy whilst you're building your business. So let's summarize the 10 steps to building a better business. First step, get clear on exactly what you want. If you don't know exactly where you're going, you'll never know whether you've got there and you won't know how to get there. And we've got a 6-step process to help you get absolutely clear on your goals. 2, be open to change and new learning. And remember, we talked about the different levels of change, environment, behavior, etc. Go through that exercise and work out for you what you need to change, what do you need to do differently, what resources do you need, etc. 3rd step, define where you are now, warts and all. In other words, for instance, if you want to lose weight, you have to know how heavy you are, so you know if you make a plan and so when you're going to actually be able to hit your target weight. If you're in a business, you have to know how many leads you get, what your conversion rate is, what your average sale value is, what your gross profit rate is. There's lots of things that you have to measure now to see what effect changing it will have. 4, the big step, make a plan. You have to bring everything into a plan, bring it down from a big goal to steps, 90-day goals, what you're going to do over the next year, review it regularly. Step 5, get your organizational structure right. In other words, be clear who's responsible for what, who's in charge of what the specific roles are for each box. Be a better leader, and that ties in with number 2. So in other words, learn how to be a leader if you don't know already. Learn how to build a strong workplace culture if you don't already, because by being these things and doing these things, your business will be much stronger and much more likely to achieve the goals that you want to achieve. Get someone independent to hold you to account. Get someone who understands what's going on in your business, understands the numbers so they can help you and understand them, will be able to pick up from you what might be stopping you, be able to coach you in order to achieve the goals that you want to achieve. Number 8, build strong networks. In other words, you can't do it all yourself. You need other people's help. You need other people's input. You need support from them, and it works both ways. 9, monitor your progress. If you don't know how much progress you're making towards your goal, then how will you know if you're ever going to get there? I was reading something recently which said that the definition of happiness is being aware that you're making progress towards a goal. It's not about just being in the moment, but it's about seeing yourself achieving something that you want to achieve. Number 10, look after yourself and enjoy your life now. Don't wait till you've built your better business. Enjoy it now. Look after yourself, have rest, etc., and eat well. So these are the 10 steps that we've gone through today. I want to say a little bit of how we possibly could help you or other businesses achieve your goals. The first one is essentially a deep dive into an intensive care for your business. For this price of a part-time employee, we can go through all the steps of the Build a Better Business program, plus coaching and anything else. Basically, it's 72 hours spread over 12 months or less. So it could be, if you're desperate, it could be 12 weeks, it could be a day a week for 12 weeks, or it could be spread somewhere in between. Usually it's somewhere in between. So that's £12,000 plus VAT. As I say, it sounds a lot of money, but it's not a lot in the context of the size of improvement you can make to your business. The business planning session, if you haven't got a business plan, we can help you develop a one-page business plan. This is a four-step. This is step 4 in building a better business. We'll work with you to gain absolute clarity in what you want for your business. We'll create a document which will have goals, we'll have the action points, we'll have the outcomes that you want. So we'll have a specific goal there as well. You can also do a financial forecast. You start with the bottom-up budgeting. We can then convert that into a 12-month forecast, which can be measured again. So you can measure your actual results against that and see how you're doing. That is part of the monitoring your progress, if you like. Both these, normally £1,500 plus VAT. We've decided, given the COVID situation at the moment, that we'll offer it for £995 plus VAT if it's booked in before the 31st December, doing a little bit, hopefully, to help some of people who want to achieve more. Next one we've got there is a goal setting one-to-one session, which is £400 plus VAT. So that's essentially step 1. Probably takes about a couple of hours or so to work through it in detail, and at the end you will have a clear goal which you can then use in your planning. We do offer monthly coaching. That tends to be about 1.5 to 2 hours a month, and that's £300 plus VAT. Quarterly coaching, we can spend a little bit longer, that's £500, and we have a complimentary meeting, and we call that, for our existing clients, we call that a complimentary client review. And it's a meeting we offer to clients to review your business goals and how they tie in with your personal goals, identify the biggest challenges you're facing, and then establish how we can work together, if possible, to address these challenges and ensure you achieve your goals. A proactive accounting meeting is similar. It's just for anyone who's not yet a client. Whatever you need help with, remember, it's likely you'll need to stretch and get out of your comfort zone. If you're going to need to obtain business funding, then you have to have a cash flow forecast. The loan needs to be repaid, so your business needs to generate enough extra profit to convert into cash to make the repayments. And we also know that it might be difficult to commit to spending right now. We have different payment options available, so please don't let cost be a barrier. And get in touch with us if we can work together to come to an arrangement you can manage. We know that the benefits you get from these services will be far greater than our fee, and most importantly, it's about helping you as quickly as possible and ensuring we're working with you to build a stronger, more resilient business. So, as we've said before, it's all very well listening to this and saying, yeah, some interesting ideas and forgetting all about it. The important point is to do something. I like to say one of the biggest problems in business is FTI, failure to implement. If you don't write down your actions you need to take, you just won't do them. So what are you going to do? What 3 things will you take away after this attending this seminar and do? What projects do you need to begin to start solving the problems you've been experiencing in your business? Write them down. Doing nothing really isn't an option. Remember, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. It's time to do something different. So, Ikra, do we have any questions?
We do, yes. We've got a few questions so far.
Okay.
If anyone else has got any other questions, please just put them in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen and we'll answer as many as we can. So the first few that we've got, first one, why, in your opinion, would an accountant be the best person to teach you how to run a business?
Well, I think that I wouldn't say that accountants are the only people. They're obviously business coaches and all sorts of people there, mentor. I think what I feel is that the working together closely with a business owner and dealing with their accounts and tax, but also knowing the implications, the financial implications of what's decided in the meeting and the tax implications really means that it cuts through all the, oh, I need to go and speak to my accountant about this, or you find out that the idea isn't very good from a tax point of view. So by speaking to your accountant who has the coaching skills, then you can do it all in one. And that to me is one of the main advantages of it. I have had clients, we've had coaches, and they'll come to me with sort of suggestions that they should do, and they don't really make sense financially or tax-wise. So they've got to go back again and revisit and rediscuss, where we do it all in one. And that's probably the main advantage, I think.
Okay, and we've got another question here. There are so many business coaches out there. I get so many of them getting in touch to offer their services. What makes you different from them?
Well, I suppose I've kind of answered that already. Personally, I'm trained in quite a few other things as opposed to just accounting and tax. I have a diploma in person-centered counselling, so I can basically relate quite well with people, I think. We've also trained as a master practitioner in NLP. And those of you who are familiar with NLP will have seen some of the themes coming through in the presentation. So that's why I think that what we offer is a bit different certainly from most accountants and certainly from most business coaches. I don't know if that answers the question.
Yep. We've got just one final question. What other services or modules do you have on offer?
Yeah, I mean, the slide, I crammed as many as I could get onto the slide without making the writing too small. We can do, basically it's like a kind of modular system where we have standalone programs that we can deal with. And the top level one, as we said, is really the combination of all of them together at the right time. Other things we do are core values workshops in order to get clarity on and establish what the business's core values are. That was mentioned in the presentation. We can do financial awareness coaching, which in other words, it's how getting people to understand their numbers and the effects of what they do on the numbers and on their profits and what they get out of their business. We can do KPI coaching, again, something else that was mentioned, which basically helps identify what the KPIs are. And these services are all one-to-one or one-to-two if there's two business owners or whatever. So they're spending a few hours on each coming up with the right answers so that they can then go and implement it in their business. And I suppose the other one that's probably very relevant is cash flow management. So in other words, understanding how cash flow works. And we do our best to do a lot of these things within our webinars, but these are really within 45 minutes to an hour, you can only really touch on the subjects. But these are in-depth, structured programs that will actually produce results for an individual business.
Okay, that's all the questions that we had in the Q&A box. If anyone's got any other questions that they want to ask privately, please just get in touch with us, either via your client manager, or you can email info@wilsonassociates.co.uk.
Okay, thank you very much.